In this video, we're going to talk about one of the more complex formulas, but also probably one of the most useful formulas that I'm going to show you. And it's called VLookup or vertical lookup. Essentially what we use VLookup for is to basically go through and we're going to look through a set of data, whether it's sorted or it's unsorted data, and we're going to pull off certain information. We're basically going to tell it, hey, go search through this data real quick, find what we need, and bring it in to what we're looking for. So let's imagine that we're in an auction barn, and we've got a couple of people that are selling different animals. Like, for example, we've got R squared selling it. We have deuce R, triple R, R squared. Some different sellers selling them. We have different lot numbers. And let's say that this particular auction barn is just selling them as the first one that comes in. So they're not in any real particular order of how they're being sold. Just first one that comes up, that's what gets sold. And they're going in random lot orders. So we have this situation where they're being sold at random times or at random order. But we want to be able to put this and be able to find this information by lot number and in order. So we have lot number over here and it's all in order, but and we're pulling data from this right here, which is all out of order. So how do we sort it? How do we put it into this order? Well, what we're going to use is a vertical lookup, or this VLookup. So this VLookup formula is listed right down here, and it's got 4 parts. It's got the search key, the data, the column or the index, and whether or not it is sorted. So we're going to have to plug all those 4 components into this VLookup formula. Now, on the search key, the one thing I want to tell you about the search key, and you're probably going to hear me say it a couple of times, is that is a unique identifying factor for each individual one. So let's think about some examples in agriculture. If we are in a situation where we have livestock and each one is numbered, whether it's with a tag or with ear notches or something of that nature, and each animal has their own unique identifying or specific ear tag specific to them, and no numbers duplicate, we can use ear tags. But if we got into a situation where maybe we have 2 different herds, herd A and herd B, herd A has ear tags 100 through 150, and lot B has ear tags 125 through 175, where some of them might be duplicated. We cannot use this anymore, or just ear tags. We have to combine ear tag with something like the herd number, like maybe herd A and herd B, because if we have 2 different ear tags, this are 2 ear tags of the same number, this isn't going to work. So it has to be unique to just them. So if we look at our example here, this lot number is unique. There is no duplicating lot number anywhere in this list. So we can use just lot number. If we were to have any of these duplicate, then we would probably need to combine lot number with seller. All right, so how do we actually do this? What we're going to do is we're going to say, all right, we want to go ahead and look up what was the price of lot 100 and who bought it. So we're going to use this VLookup. So we're going to say equals VLookup. We're going to click right there, and it brings up this description of it. We need that search key. So that search key, the value to search for, that's that unique identifying factor. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we want to search for this number out of this data. Now, the other kind of critical thing about VLookup is whatever that search number is, that search column, whatever that search key is, has to appear in this column or in that very first column of your data. So, range. The next component is this range or this data. So the range is, or the range to consider for the search. The first column in the range is searched for, for the specific, or for the key specified in the search key. That's what I was just saying. That search key has to be in that first column of this data. So where is our data? What data are we looking for? We're looking for this data right here. You notice I am not highlighting this information right here, our category labels. I'm highlighting just our data. And again, what we are searching for is in that very first column. That lot number is in that very first column. So then I'm going to go ahead and lock this in. The reason I'm locking this in is because as we drag this down, we're going to drag this down. And as we drag it down, our lot number is going to change, but our range won't. We want to reference the same exact data all the time. The next component, and I deleted that by accident. Let me get that back. So we lock that in. The next component is this index. I called it a column. It's also called an index. And it's the column index of the value to be returned, where the first column in the range is numbered 1. So what it's basically saying is, which column do we want to pull from? Which column are we searching for this information? So basically so far what we're telling it is find this number, A2, in the first column of this data. And then we're going to, once we find that, we are going to pull certain information out from basically that row in a different column. So which column do we want to pull it from? Right now we're looking for the price. So we're going to pull it not from column 1. Column 2 is a seller. We're trying to pull the price from column 3. So we don't say E, F, or G. We actually type in numbers. So this is column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. So we're looking for column 3. So that's the index. Basically, so what we're telling it so far is find cell A2 out of the first column of this data, and then once you do, go along and find in the third column and bring that information out. That's what we're trying to do. And then the last part is it's asking, is it sorted? Is this data sorted? Well, this data isn't sorted. It's actually very unsorted. So we're always going to put false. A good rule of thumb is, unless you're very comfortable, always put false on that last part. So I'm going to press enter. So here's what it did. It basically said, go find number 100 out of this column. So let's go down. There's 100. And then I want you to pull the price out of this third column for lot 100. Well, that price was 808. There's our number. So then we can actually just drag this down. And once we drag it down, we now have the prices of all of this data all the way up and all the way down. What happened here? We have an NA on 105. Why is that? Because if you look through this data right here, there is no 105. There was no lot 105. So what it says is it could not find 105 in that VLookup evaluation. So there is no 105. We can't find the price on 105 because there is none. So let's go ahead and do it again, and I'm going to show you some kind of common mistakes in this particular deal and why they're common mistakes. So we're going to do VLookup again. And we're going to use that same search key. Our search key is still 100, or this A2. It's that number that we're looking for, that lot number. And I'm going to highlight the range now. Only this time, whenever I highlight this range, I'm not going to lock it in. I'm going to highlight just that range. Don't lock it in. Now I'm looking for my index. So here I'm looking for the buyer number. Well, which column is the buyer number in? Well, it's in buyer number, or it's in column 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I will say 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and say false. Just like I need to. Alright, so buyer, or lot number 100 had buyer 130. So 100 had buyer 130. That's right. Let's drag it down a little bit. 101. 101, which is way down here, had buyer number 1031. That's correct. Buyer number 102. We come down here, 102 had buyer 116. That's correct. And then all of a sudden we get to an error. It says it couldn't find 103 in the data. But it found it over here. So we know there's 103. We know it has a buyer number. But what happened? We didn't lock in that range. So let's pull it up. You see how the range is shifted down? What happens is because we didn't lock in that range, we didn't absolute that range, as we drug it down, the range shifted with us. So it wound up throwing off all these error codes down here. There should have only been one error code, and that would have been at 105. But because we didn't lock in that range, it threw it off. So Let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go ahead and highlight this range. Let's lock it in. And now we're going to change this to true, saying that that is sorted. We're going to drag this down. What happened there? So what's going on is it's saying that this should be sorted. This should go in some kind of a row, some kind of an order, when it doesn't. But we put in there true. So instead of starting off at the top and trying to read it as if it was filtered, as if it was already in order, it's not being able to do that. So it's throwing off error codes everywhere. Basically, whenever you put in there true instead of false, it's trying to find the closest answer in some sort of an organized manner, and it's not doing that. We're not dealing with an organized sheet. So make sure you always put false right here. And if we change that back to false, that is sorted back to false, we get a nice clean data sheet. So a couple of things to remember. Couple of key things to remember. Number one, always make sure that your search key is an identifying factor that is unique to each and every single individual item, whether it's cattle, whether it's a lot number, whether it's anything like that, or any field or anything of that nature. Make sure that each lot number is unique. If you see two of the same number or two of the same of anything, two of the same verbiage, you've got to come up with a different unique identifying factor. Second thing is always lock in this range. Always. The third thing is whenever you're doing your columns or you're using that index, this is number one. And then your data, whatever your range is, so this is our range. This first column is 1, 2, 3, 4. This column or this index is numbers, and always use false.